Throughout history, certain weapons have transcended their physical purpose to become symbols of power, destiny, and legend. Among these, swords hold a special place in our collective imagination. Today, on Chronicles Explained, we journey through mythology, folklore, and history to explore the most famous mythical swords of legend that have captivated our imaginations for centuries. The allure of these legendary blades isn't just their supernatural qualities, but what they represent: justice, kingship, divine right, and heroic destiny. From Excalibur to Masamune, these weapons are characters in their own right, carrying stories that have survived thousands of years. Let's begin our journey in medieval Europe with perhaps the most famous sword in Western mythology, Excalibur. The sword of King Arthur wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of rightful kingship. According to most Arthurian legends, Excalibur wasn't the sword in the stone, but rather a second sword given to Arthur by the Lady of the Lake after the first one broke in battle. Excalibur was said to be so bright it could blind enemies, and its scabbard was perhaps even more valuable. While wearing it, Arthur could not bleed from his wounds. The sword's magical properties included the ability to cut through anything and offer protection against those who would harm its wielder. When Sir Bedivere finally returns Excalibur to the Lady of the Lake after Arthur's fatal wounding, the enchanted blade's journey comes full circle. But Europe has many more legendary swords beyond Excalibur. Norse mythology gives us Gram, the sword of the hero, Sigurd. Originally belonging to his father Sigmund, Gram was plunged into the tree Barnstalker by Odin himself, declaring that whoever could pull it out would receive it. After Sigmund's death, the sword was shattered but reforged for Sigurd, who used it to slay the dragon Fafnir. The parallels to Arthur's sword are unmistakable, showing how these mythical themes often cross cultures. Another Norse blade of legend is Tyrfing, a sword cursed to kill a man every time it was drawn, and destined to bring misfortune to its owner. Despite being able to cut through stone and iron as easily as cloth, its curse ensured that its power always came with a terrible price, a common theme with many mythical weapons. Moving eastward to Japan, we find an entirely different sword tradition, but equally powerful legends. The three sacred treasures of Japan include the sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi, also known as Ame no Murakumo no Tsurugi, sword of the gathering clouds of heaven. According to legend, the storm god Susanoo discovered the sword in the tail of an 8-headed serpent he had slain. The sword eventually passed to the imperial family and is said to control the winds. Though never displayed publicly, it allegedly remains an imperial regalia of Japan to this day. The Japanese swordsmith Masamune created blades so perfect they've become legendary. His most famous creation, the Honjo Masamune, was so sharp and perfectly crafted it was deemed supernatural. A popular legend tells that when testing a Masamune blade against one made by his rival Muramasa, Muramasa's sword cut everything in its path, including leaves floating downstream, while Masamune's blade cut nothing that was innocent. The leaves simply flowed around it. This story illustrates not just the sword's quality, but its inherent moral character. Chinese mythology gives us the Ganjiang and Moye swords, named after the husband and wife who forged them. When the furnace wouldn't reach the proper temperature, Moye sacrificed herself by jumping into the fire. From this tragedy came a male and female sword pair with extraordinary powers. The female sword, Moye, was said to be able to slice through metal like mud and even cut the fog, while Ganjiang could detect and counter evil spirits. In Indian mythology, we find the divine sword Chandrahas, wielded by the demon king Ravana. Its name means laughter of the moon, referring to its gleaming, curved blade. Given to Ravana by Lord Shiva himself, the sword could never be used against its creator or his devotees, thus foreshadowing Ravana's eventual defeat by Lord Rama, an avatar of Vishnu, but also a devotee of Shiva. The Middle East gives us Zulfiqar, the legendary sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib, son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. Recognizable by its distinctive bifurcated blade, Zulfiqar was reportedly given to Ali by Muhammad at the Battle of Uhud, with the famous declaration, "There is no hero but Ali." there is no sword but Zulfiqar. In Islamic tradition, the sword symbolizes the strength and courage of faith. Returning to Europe, Irish mythology offers Calidbolg, the sword of Fergus MacRoich. Its name possibly means hard cleft, and it was said to create rainbows when swung and could cut the tops off hills. This sword later appears in different forms across Celtic legends and may have influenced later Arthurian tales. The Norse god Freyr possessed a sword that could fight on its own, requiring no wielder. However, he traded this miraculous weapon to win the heart of the giantess Gerda, a decision the gods would later regret during Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, when Freyr faced the fire giant Surtur without his magical sword and was slain. Greek mythology presents us with Harp, the sword used by Perseus to decapitate the Gorgon Medusa, and by the Titan Kronos to overthrow his father Uranus. Described as an adamantine sickle or scimitar, Harp represents the moment when divine tools pass into mortal hands for heroic purposes. In Finnish mythology, the Kalevala tells of Vainamoinen and his light-giving sword that shone like the sun or moon, illuminating dark places with its gleam. Not just a weapon, this sword represented the knowledge and wisdom of its wielder, the great sage and eternal bard of Finnish legends. Arthurian legends give us more than just Excalibur. There's also Clarent, the sword of peace used for ceremonial purposes, which was stolen by Mordred and used to deliver Arthur's fatal wound. The contrast between its intended purpose and its actual use highlights the tragedy of Arthur's fall. The legendary Irish hero Cú Chulainn wielded Cruaidín Catuchen, or the hard-headed slasher, a sword that could cut a hair floating on water or cleave a man in two with equal ease. Like many heroes, Cú Chulainn's weapon reflected his own superhuman abilities. Not all mythical swords are ancient. Fantasy literature has given us new legends. J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth features Narsil, broken in battle against Sauron, and later reforged as Andúril, the Flame of the West. This sword represents the broken line of kings that is eventually restored through Aragorn. Glamdring, Gandalf's sword, and Sting, carried by Bilbo and later Frodo, glow blue when orcs are near, serving as both weapons and warning devices. George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire features Dawn, a sword forged from the heart of a fallen star, and the Valyrian steel blades which, like their inspiration in real-world Damascus steel, represent lost knowledge and are highly prized for their superior quality and magical properties. Modern fantasy continues to create new, legendary blades. The Witcher series features silver swords, specially crafted to combat monsters. The Elder Scrolls video games include Dawnbreaker, a sword that causes undead enemies to explode in light. Even Star Wars, though science fiction, gives us lightsabers, plasma swords with a near mythical status and construction ritual. What makes these weapons so enduring in our collective imagination? Perhaps it's that swords, unlike other weapons, are deeply personal extensions of their wielders. A sword must be mastered through skill and discipline, qualities we associate with heroes. The sword represents the fine edge between civilization and barbarism. It can defend the innocent or tyrannize them. Mythical swords often serve as tests of character. Who can draw the sword from the stone? Who is worthy to wield this power? The answer reveals the true hero. In many legends, the sword chooses its master as much as the master chooses the sword. These legendary weapons also represent human achievement elevated to supernatural levels. The perfect sword, unbreakable, supernaturally sharp, with magical properties, symbolizes our aspiration toward perfection in our crafts and arts. In many ways, the sword is civilization's first technological marvel, transforming raw materials into something greater through knowledge, skill, and craftsmanship. When we imagine magical swords, we're imagining technology so advanced it appears magical, fulfilling Arthur C. Clarke's famous observation that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. As we've seen throughout these legends, the mythical sword is rarely just a weapon. It's a symbol of authority, divine favor, heroic destiny, and moral character. When we tell stories of these blades, we're really telling stories about ourselves, our values, our history, our understanding of power and responsibility. The legends of these swords continue to evolve, with new stories building upon ancient ones. Video games let players discover their own legendary weapons. Films visualize these mythical blades for new generations. Fantasy novels create new swords with their own rich histories. What connects the ancient tale of Excalibur to the modern story of lightsabers is our enduring fascination with weapons that transcend their physical purpose to become symbols of something greater: justice, destiny, the triumph of good over evil, or the hero's journey itself. As we conclude our journey through the mythical swords of legend, remember that these stories, like the blades themselves, are forged in the fires of human imagination and tempered by countless retellings. They cut through time, connecting us to our ancestors and their understanding of heroism, power, and destiny. This has been Chronicles Explained, bringing the past to life through the stories that have shaped our world. If you enjoyed this exploration of legendary weapons, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss our weekly journeys into history and mythology. Leave a comment below telling us which mythical sword you found most fascinating. Until our next adventure through time, thanks for watching Chronicles Explained.